Imagine this. You're in a relationship, or maybe you're thinking about starting one. Have you ever wondered what truly goes on in the mind of a man? What drives his actions, his emotions, and even his silences? Today, we'll dive deep into the psychology of men in relationships, a perspective that often goes unspoken, misunderstood, or completely ignored. And trust me, what you'll discover might just change the way you see relationships forever. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Red Pill Feminina, leave a like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear these truths. You won't want to miss what we're uncovering here today, especially the final insight. It's the most important and might just be the key to understanding everything. So let's get into it. At their core, men approach relationships in a way that is heavily influenced by their evolutionary wiring and societal conditioning. While women are often socialized to prioritize connection and nurturing, men tend to internalize messages about strength, independence, and problem-solving. These messages create a unique emotional framework that governs how men show up in relationships. One critical aspect of understanding this psychology lies in recognizing the role of purpose and identity in a man's life. Many men derive their sense of self-worth from achievement, whether in their careers, personal goals, or even hobbies. This is why, for many men, relationships can feel secondary to their primary mission, not because they don't care, but because their sense of purpose is intricately tied to their ability to provide, protect, or achieve. Dr. Robert Glover, in his book No More Mr. Nice Guy, delves deeply into this dynamic. He explains how men, often unknowingly, develop what he calls covert contracts in relationships. These are unspoken agreements where a man believes, if I do this for her, she will do that for me. When these contracts go unfulfilled, frustration builds, leading to misunderstandings and resentment. But here's the kicker. Most of the time, these expectations are never communicated. It's a silent internal battle that affects the way men engage emotionally and practically in relationships. Now, let's explore an often misunderstood concept: emotional expression. Society has long conditioned men to suppress their feelings. Phrases like man up or boys don't cry are drilled into their psyche from a young age, creating a barrier to emotional vulnerability. This doesn't mean men don't feel deeply. In fact, they often do. But the way they process and express emotions is vastly different from what many women might expect. Take, for example, the concept of stoicism. Many men adopt a stoic persona, not because they lack emotions, but because they believe emotional restraint equates to strength. Authors like Marcus Aurelius and Ryan Holiday have popularized stoicism as a philosophy, but its misapplication can lead men to suppress rather than manage their emotions effectively. In relationships, this can create a disconnect, where their partner feels like they are distant or unemotional when, in reality, they're simply struggling to express what they're feeling. Another key factor to consider is how men handle conflict in relationships. According to John Gottman, a leading researcher in relationship dynamics, men are more likely to become physiologically overwhelmed during arguments. This phenomenon, known as flooding, can cause them to shut down, disengage, or even walk away. While this response is often interpreted as indifference or avoidance, it's actually a survival mechanism. Men need time to recalibrate and process before re-engaging, but this need is rarely understood or respected in the heat of the moment. Here's a question to reflect on. Have you ever experienced a moment where a man withdrew during a conflict and you wondered if he even cared? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective matters, and we want to hear from you. As we unravel these layers of male psychology, it's crucial to address the idea of validation. Men, like anyone else, crave validation, but they often seek it in ways that are less overt. This could be through accomplishments, acts of service, or even subtle gestures that go unnoticed. When a man feels unappreciated or undervalued in a relationship, it can deeply affect his sense of self and his willingness to invest emotionally. We've covered a lot already, but there's so much more to uncover. In the next section, we'll dive into the role of attachment styles, the influence of childhood experiences on how men approach relationships, and the surprising ways that men experience love and connection. If you're finding this content insightful, make sure to subscribe to Red Pill Feminina and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next part. And don't forget to like and share this video. It could be the conversation starter someone else needs. Stay tuned. because the next revelation might just challenge everything you thought you knew about men and relationships. Let's continue our journey into the intricate psychology of men and relationships. In this part, we'll explore the hidden layers of attachment, the impact of childhood experiences, and how these factors shape the way men connect with their partners. If you think you've understood men before, what comes next may challenge those beliefs entirely. To truly grasp why men behave the way they do in relationships, we need to start with the concept of attachment styles. Psychologist John Bowlby's groundbreaking work on attachment theory revealed that our early relationships with caregivers influence how we connect with others as adults. Men, just like women, develop one of 4 primary attachment styles: secure, anxious, avoidant, or fearful avoidant. Here's where it gets interesting. Studies suggest that men are more likely to exhibit avoidant attachment styles compared to women. This means they may struggle with vulnerability, have a fear of being dependent on others, or prefer emotional distance to maintain a sense of control. However, this doesn't mean they're incapable of love. It simply means their way of loving looks different. For instance, a man with an avoidant attachment style might show love through actions rather than words. He might fix things around the house, work longer hours to provide, or quietly observe your needs and meet them without saying much. If you've ever wondered why a man doesn't openly express his feelings, this could be a key reason. But what shapes these attachment styles? The answer lies in childhood experiences. Boys who grow up in environments where they're encouraged to be tough, self-reliant, or emotionally restrained often carry these lessons into adulthood. If a boy learns early on that his emotions are dismissed or mocked, he might develop a protective mechanism to hide them. This isn't just personal, it's cultural. Dr. Warren Farrell, in The Boy Crisis, highlights how societal pressures to be manly often rob boys of the freedom to explore their emotional worlds. This creates a cycle where men grow up disconnected from their feelings, leading to challenges in forming deep emotional connections in their adult relationships. Now let's address a common misconception about men in love. Many believe that men are less emotional or less invested in relationships, but research shows the opposite. Men often fall in love faster than women and can experience heartbreak more intensely. The difference lies in how they process these emotions. Take the example of a man who seems distant after a breakup. On the surface, it might appear that he's moved on quickly or doesn't care, but beneath the surface he's likely processing his emotions internally, trying to make sense of what went wrong. Men are often conditioned to see vulnerability as weakness, so instead of reaching out for support, they retreat into themselves. This brings us to another crucial point: how men experience connection. Dr. Willard Harley, in his book His Needs, Her Needs, outlines that one of the primary ways men feel loved is through respect and admiration. While women often prioritize emotional intimacy, men tend to value acts of respect, words of affirmation, and physical affection as indicators of love. Think about this. When was the last time you truly acknowledged the efforts of a man in your life? A simple thank you or I appreciate what you've done can mean the world to him. Men may not always express their need for validation, but they crave it deeply. When this need goes unmet, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy or even resentment in the relationship. But here's a twist. Many men don't even realize they have these needs. They've been taught to suppress them for so long that they've lost touch with what they truly desire in a partnership. This is why self-awareness is critical for men who want to build healthy, fulfilling relationships. Now let's shift gears and talk about the role of societal expectations in shaping male psychology. For centuries, men have been defined by their ability to provide and protect. These roles, while important, can also create immense pressure. A man who feels he's failing in these areas might withdraw emotionally, not because he doesn't care, but because he feels inadequate. Consider the concept of the provider instinct. Men often equate their worth with their ability to offer stability and security. When this is threatened, whether by financial struggles, career setbacks, or personal insecurities, it can deeply affect their behavior in relationships. This is where understanding becomes key. Instead of assuming a man's withdrawal is a lack of love, consider it a response to internal conflict. A question for you to reflect on. Have you ever noticed a man pulling away during stressful times, only to later return with renewed focus and commitment? Let us know your experiences in the comments. We're starting to uncover the hidden dynamics that drive male behavior in relationships, but there's still so much more to explore. In the next section, we'll tackle how men deal with emotional intimacy, the challenges they face in balancing independence and connection, and the surprising truth about what men really want from their partners. If you're finding these insights valuable, don't forget to subscribe to Red Pill Feminina and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Your support helps us continue bringing you content that challenges conventional thinking and sparks meaningful conversations. Stay with us, because the next revelations might just shift your perspective on love and relationships entirely. Now that we've uncovered how attachment styles, childhood experiences, and societal expectations shape men in relationships, it's time to go even deeper. What does emotional intimacy mean for men? How do they navigate the fine line between independence and connection? And most importantly, what do men truly want from their partners? The answers may surprise you. Let's begin with emotional intimacy, a topic that is often misunderstood when it comes to men. While women are generally encouraged to express their emotions openly, men often grow up in environments where vulnerability is equated with weakness. This creates a complex dynamic. Men crave emotional intimacy but are hesitant to pursue it because of the risk it involves. Dr. Brené Brown, in her research on vulnerability, explains that one of the greatest fears men have is the fear of being perceived as weak. This fear often stems from societal conditioning, where boys are taught to be strong or man up instead of expressing their feelings. In relationships, this fear can lead men to put up emotional walls, even with partners they deeply care about. But here's the paradox. Men long for connection just as much as women do. The difference lies in how they express and seek it. For many men, emotional intimacy is not always about talking or sharing feelings. It's often built through shared experiences, physical touch, and moments of silent understanding. Imagine this. A man comes home after a long day and sits quietly beside his partner. He doesn't say much, but his presence speaks volumes. For him, this moment of closeness is a form of connection. While this might seem distant to some, it's a reflection of how men often process intimacy. Let's address another critical challenge: the balance between independence and connection. Men are naturally wired to value independence. This doesn't mean they don't want to commit or connect, but they often need space to maintain their sense of individuality. Author and relationship expert David Dida, in The Way of the Superior Man, explains that a man's purpose is at the core of his being. If a man feels that his independence or sense of purpose is threatened, he may struggle to fully engage in the relationship. This is why understanding and respecting a man's need for space is so important. It's not about rejection, it's about self-preservation. When men feel that their independence is honored, they are more likely to invest deeply in the relationship. Here's a question for you. Have you ever felt confused when a man pulls away, only to return more attentive and connected? This push and pull dynamic is often a natural response to the internal struggle between independence and connection. Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your perspective. Now let's shift our focus to what men truly want in a relationship. The answer may not be as complicated as you think. Men want to feel respected, appreciated, and understood. Respect, in particular, is a cornerstone of male psychology. When a man feels respected, he feels valued. And when he feels valued, he is more likely to open up emotionally and invest in the relationship. This concept is explored in depth by Dr. Emerson Eggerichs in his book, Love and Respect. He argues that while women often prioritize love as their primary emotional need, men prioritize respect. For men, respect is not just about admiration, it's about feeling trusted and supported in their decisions and actions. Take a moment to reflect. How often do you show respect to the men in your life? It could be as simple as acknowledging their efforts or trusting their judgment. Small gestures of respect can have a profound impact on how a man perceives the relationship. Another critical factor is appreciation. Men often show love through acts of service, whether it's fixing something, offering support, or providing for their family. When these efforts go unnoticed, it can lead to feelings of frustration or even withdrawal. On the other hand, a simple thank you or I see how hard you're working can reinforce a man's sense of worth and strengthen the bond between partners. Finally, let's discuss understanding. Men often feel misunderstood in relationships because their emotional world operates differently. They may not always articulate their feelings, but that doesn't mean they don't have them. When a partner takes the time to understand and accept a man's unique way of processing emotions, it creates a safe space for him to be vulnerable. This brings us to a powerful revelation. Men want to feel safe too. Just as women seek emotional safety in relationships, men desire a space where they can let their guard down without fear of judgment or rejection. This emotional safety is the foundation of deep and lasting connection. As we've seen, the psychology of men in relationships is complex, but it's not impossible to understand. By recognizing their need for respect, independence, and emotional safety, we can build stronger, more fulfilling partnerships. But we're not done yet. In the next section, we'll explore the